Today we're going to be learning about domain and range. The essential question for today is, how are domain and range and independent-dependent related? So independent, it's a variable in an equation that may have its value freely chosen without considering values of any other variables. It's most likely your x. So dependent is a variable that depends on the other variable. This is usually your y. Your domain is a set of all possible input values, usually x, which allows the problem to be worked. The range is a set of all possible output values, usually y, which result after substituting all possible x values. So independent and domain have to do with x, and the dependent and range have to do with your y. Let's look at an example. So we have the equation y equals x, 3x minus 2. So the x is your independent variable, and your y is your dependent variable. So to find your domain and range, you usually set up a table. So we have our x and a y. Since they don't specify on domain and range, we can just pick any values. So I'm just going to do 0, 1, and 2. And now to find my y values, I'm going to plug in these x values right in here and see what y values I get. So for the first one, I'll do 3 times 0 minus 2, which gives me negative 2. So I'm going to go ahead and write that over here. For the second one, I should have 3 times 1 minus 2, which gives me 1. And then for the last one, I should have 3 times 2 minus 2 equals 4. So I'll write that over here. So that's most of the time, it's all you need to do when you're solving for domain and range. So continuous is the data that can take any value. And discrete is data that can only take certain values or specific values. So let's look at these two examples. The first one, since it gives you a line, that can take any values. See how it's continuous. And this next graph, how it has some points scattered everywhere, is only a certain amount of points or values. So that is discrete. To determine our domain and range, we just need to look at our x. Remember, our x has to do with domain, and the same thing with independent. So that's right here. So I'm going to look at all my x values for this one. Since that starts in 0 and keeps on getting bigger, I can say that x is greater than or equal to 0. Same thing for my y. The y has to do with your dependent and your range. So I'm going to put my range, or r, is equal to my y values that are greater than or equal to 0. Just looking at the y values, seeing how it's getting greater. Now let's look at this next one. We're going to write this one a little bit differently. So for my domain, I'm just going to list out the points or the x coordinates that they give us. So I'm going to use one of those squiggly brackets, and I'm going to write 1, 3, 5, and 8, and close it with little squiggly brackets. I just found these numbers from the x-axis right here. I'm going to do the same thing for my y, or my range. I'm going to use those same brackets, and I'm just going to list my y values. I usually do this from smallest to biggest. So I should have 2, 3, 5, and 6. And I close it with a little squiggly bracket. And I just got these numbers from looking at my y-coordinate. So I have a 2, 3, 5, and 6 right here, my y-axis. So now you guys can go ahead and write your questions in summary.